Let's watch this. Is Gen Z misinformed? Conservative teens versus liberals versus moderates. This is gonna make me fucking mauled.
From the middle ground, keep an eye out for an interactive prompt in the middle of this episode, and thank you for watching.
Our generation is misinformed.
Oh God, I'm gonna hate this. I'm gonna hate this so much.
I do feel our generation is heavily misinformed sometimes because of social media. A lot of the times they just see movements as sort of a trend without looking into them, and I feel that that happened so much. They'll just go with it, and I feel like a lot of the times it makes it very easy for us to kind of just be tailed by the government, and I feel that we need to do a lot better job at looking into things and really reading into things and starting to take facts over feelings.
Yeah.
I can't tell if Jubilee is just like consistently fucking saying that leftists are liberals or what the fuck is going on. But like, if your political spectrum revolves around like moderates, conservatives, and liberals, like that spectrum is already right. It's very right wing. Liberals, like, if they're actual liberals in the way that we understand the Democratic Party, like that's a horrible political spectrum. Okay, that's just the horrible political spectrum. Unless they mean like Schizo Andy, send him a DM. He's like, that's how I solve all my problems. I send DMs to all of my favorite content creators. He said, yep.
Because it's 10 times easier to just look at something and accept it as truth than to go and do your research and find counterclaims or something that aligns with that. Because if you're just sitting there like scrolling through TikTok and somebody says that this is happening, I mean, like, who's gonna? It's not really
Educate yourself.
Yeah.
I strongly agree with both of you guys. You know, I think the reason why I was hesitant about walking over is even though I agree that our generation.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. This guy doesn't seem kind of moderate, okay? As is the case with many moderates, like homie just looks like a Ben Shapiro watcher, okay? And that doesn't exactly scream moderate to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe I'm just being unfair, ruthless, whatever. But it doesn't really seem like he's very moderate. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be. I gotta go pee right now, though.
Misinformed. That doesn't mean that older generations aren't also misinformed, especially, you know, in the form of, for like Gen X and the baby boomers or whatever. Cable news in particular, you have millions of Americans now who are tuning in every night to see Tucker Carlson spread misinformation. I don't want to pick on him in particular, but he's an example. Social media is just another example of what's been going on for generations and generations of people just, with all due respect, being too lazy to do their own research and just believing what other people tell them.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you guys, but I also wanted to add that as a generation, we don't have good examples of politicians and how they disagree and agree anymore. When my parents were younger, they used to watch the politicians in the Senate and the House have like great lively debates and come to a conclusion in the end, and you would see how they were speaking and how they bounced off each other's opinions. And now that we don't have that example anymore, we're forced to get our information from social media, and a lot of the news channels these days are heavily biased, and because of that, I feel like as a generation we're heavily misinformed. My dad and I spoke to each other a lot about politics, and since I was a liberal at that time and he was a conservative, we would have a lot of debates. I would find myself growing and becoming more moderate just because the things he said and the things I listened to and the things I researched because of points that he made to me, I would find myself transitioning into more of a moderate.
All right. Can the disagree step forward?
I disagreed because in 2022, truth is becoming less and less objective and more subjective. And there will always be objective truth, but humanity will stray further and further from that.
Postmodernist conservatism, boys. Here it is. It's so strange because like these guys are supposed to be like, no, the word of the Bible is the objective universal truth.
Especially when a lie can be attached to an emotion. You see, we are thinking less and less critically and more emotionally as a whole. And so when you see something like, for instance, George Floyd, May of 2020, that just strikes your heart. First thing you want to do, go to Instagram and post a black square. Now, what is that doing? I don't quite know. But what it made you feel was like you did something to help that poor fellow who got a terrible thing that happened to him.
When I was hearing this question, I was thinking like, is the majority of like my generation, aka the people I know, misinformed? And I would definitely say yeah. I feel like the lack of information is like almost as bad as like receiving the wrong information.
I want to touch up on something you said. I think it is true that social media did change the way we receive information, whether that is misinformation or the truth. But that doesn't make us misinformed because of that. Obviously, like, yes, you have social media, it's so much easier to get information, but I don't think because we have social media that automatically makes you misinformed.
What? Bro, why'd they make this like Hans Zimmer shit? They're making it seem like they're making it seem like this is the fucking, you know, nerd Avengers, dude. Calm down. You got a bunch of goobers in a room, you know? And they're spitting.
My parents influenced my political
You want it? 1 week or perma? 1 week or perma? 1 week. I'm nice.
Grew up in a conservative Christian household in Iowa, so I'm very, very well around like conservative politics all the time, and my parents have absolutely influenced like not only my morals but my political beliefs through that manner. And I think a lot of those teachings actually led me to being more progressive and more liberal over time, rather than actually being conservative.
Yeah, for me it's kind of similar. My dad is Christian, but in Vietnam they have this thing where actually like they practice both Buddhism and Christianity. From both religions, both Buddhism and Christianity, it's always taught about like we as a community need to take care of each other, we need to respect each other, and we need to create like the best society we can. My parents not like directly telling me like, oh, you should believe this or you should believe that, but just the way that they have taught morals to me and also their own personal experiences have influenced my own beliefs. In Buddhism, it's basically what can you do that is the best for others. Of course, not everyone agrees with my beliefs, but regardless of that, I still want them to have happiness in life.
I'd say my parents gave me probably one of the most interesting childhoods out there. I was observant, so I watched my community, and when I saw how things had progressed in my community and then sort of just stopped, especially during the housing recession and crash in 2007 and 8, I had a deep question as to why aren't things getting better. They didn't teach me anything. They let me learn my own way, because if they had...
Oh, no. Yeah. He's really making an argument for not doing that. Not gonna lie. Homie said that was a mistake.
Taught me something, I wouldn't have had the thirst to know more.
So why did you step forward?
I stepped forward because I believe without them, I could have had some other sort.
I love how big of a free thinker he is in his like gas is $9 t-shirt.
I stepped forward.
Okay. I love rising above the crowd and being an individual thinker, like a free thinker, in my Joe Brandon made the gas prices high t-shirt.
Because I believe without them, I could have had some other sort of beliefs, but I felt that what they taught me pushed me down my path.
Sorry, okay. So I became a conservative in 2018, and I became that based off my research. I was actually a liberal before.
Bro. Why is every conservative's fucking story revolve around, I did my own research, brother? No, you didn't do your own research. You watched YouTube videos that the algorithm funneled you through, okay? Because you were the product. And you didn't realize that like it slowly but surely was eroding your fucking consciousness and rebuilding it in a way that was more susceptible to weird radicalizing content. You didn't do your own research. That's like a fun and cute little way of describing watching YouTube videos and having the algorithm serve you more and more radical content.
For that, just because everyone else around me was a liberal. I would vote for Trump in the upcoming election over Biden or over anyone else that runs against him. He embraces free market economics just like I do. We need less government spending. We need to cut taxes. We need to cut government spending, and Donald Trump would definitely do that.
Are your parents conservative?
They are actually, but politics never came up in my family before Trump became president. So they did not influence me to be a conservative.
But there were 2 years in between, Trump being inaugurated in 2017, and then if it was like late or mid 2018,
Yeah.
a year and a half of Trump being in office, running headlines, a lot of big things happening. Are you sure none of that and their commentary at the dinner table maybe didn't influence?
No, I remember 2016 election. They didn't say a thing about who they wanted.
That's hard. That's hard.
I know, I'm telling you. It just didn't come up. And obviously this country is way more political now than it was 10 years ago. But I'm telling you, I just became a conservative.
What? My bro, you are a child. What do you mean this country became more political now than it was 10 years ago? What does that even mean? Bro, how did you adopt the politics and the politics understanding of like a 70-year-old person? How did that happen? You're like 18 years old and you're talking like one of those dumbasses who's like, well, I voted for Ronald Reagan and Barack Obama. What do you mean it wasn't political, bro? He's talking about 9/11 and the fucking war on terror. Fuck you mean it wasn't political? Well, I guess he wasn't even alive back then, so.
Based off my own research.
Our whole entire family is very much on the left, like Democratic, liberal, but my mom, she was not, and she would claim that she was a Republican, but I don't think she knows a damn thing about what that means. But like, she...
Shots fired.
Right? But there was a lot of tension, whenever we would talk about certain political things that I would bring up. And then my brother, he's very right-leaning. One day I like came home and they were going through like a journal of mine that was like, just of like my liberal views and like Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. And then I realized in that moment, I was like, we aren't on the same page, and I don't think we ever are going to be.
Moderates are the solution.
I can't. I scrolled away from it because like the video is going to give me fucking genuine, like I'm going to have a physical reaction to this video right now.
Pretty straightforward. This country functions best when people from all different walks of life, all different political ideologies are able to come together for a greater cause. I believe that the two-party system is a trap. I believe that political parties as a concept are antithetical to democracy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I also just want to add that I think both parties are a lot more radical.
Bro, he said based one party solution. You know what I mean? Like China. He said the two-party system is a trap. There should be one party. You know what I mean? Like China. Just the communists, just the CCP that fucking dominates, okay? Or the Communist Party in Cuba. And you can have different party members from different political worldviews and ideologies within the party, but it's the one party, baby. Yeah. Don't think that's what he meant. Yeah, I'm joking, man. I'm making a joke.
Than they used to be, and I think moderates are helping bridge that gap in between.
You're an absolute idiot. Yeah, I'm the idiot.
And kind of showing that, you can agree with both parties, which can help, especially in, Senate and House of Representatives, to come up with better policies and to come up with better laws that help our people instead of, the bickering that we see among our politicians right now.
I just think the problem in America is that we don't have enough political parties. We only have two. That's the problem. It makes us so divided that we have to pick between the left or the right.
Yeah, also,
It's just strange because, like, I never see moderates being like, hey, man, I think we should be more leftist, actually. I just only see them go further and further to the right, especially in a country like America that's already like inherently slanted towards the right. I wonder why.
Also, I hate this notion that it's always like what's in the middle that's right. I think really we should be looking at whether it's right are not necessarily based upon the fact whether it's right or whether it's left or whether it's in the middle. It should be based upon the arguments. It should be based upon the rationalization.
I love your take on that, but nothing can really ever be right, because what's right to one person is not going to be right to the next.
I mean, you can look ideologically at both, and I can say, well, this is this and this is this, but who's to say which is correct? Which is why the problem of parties, I think, can't really be solved.
That's such a funny take from a conservative, dude. It's like, so what's up? Are you saying that conservatives are incorrect? Why are you making it seem like who's to say who's correct and who's incorrect? And then you turn around and you're always like, but the Democrats are incorrect and the conservatives are correct. So why are you saying that? What is this like weird dance around the issues here? We know what you believe. You're wearing a fucking Joe Brandon t-shirt, bro. You're wearing a fucking I did that t-shirt. I'm 14 and this is deep, the video.
By breaking the binary, it's something that is ingrained into us as humans to be team members, to be competitive. Competition is what we are, even when it comes to representing ourselves, leading ourselves, and attempting to better ourselves. So having more teams isn't going to fix that.
Well, why not just eliminate the political party just to achieve, you know, the ability of people to cooperate with each other? Because
holy fuck, is this kid like a direct democracy anarchist? What is happening right now? Is he? I was just memeing around about like the fucking two-party system is broken, which I agree, it is fundamentally flawed. But this guy literally is like, no, individual direct democracy, every single thing, including zoning laws, but also like literally what the fucking comptroller has to do on a daily basis needs to be democratized. Every part of the government needs to be fucking run on direct participatory democracy.
As George Washington warned of political partisanship in his farewell address, he wasn't saying we need more parties, he was saying we need no parties, because these political parties force people to believe a certain way just so that they can fit in with their fellow party members.
Well, Thanos snapping away the party system isn't going to get rid of ideological teamsmanship. We are always going to have these issues, and every person, whether they've got a D or an R next to their name, they're going to get, or I say, hey, are you pro or anti-abortion? Okay, get into this. Are you pro or anti-gun? Okay, get into this. You might see some of these groups slightly different, but in the scheme of things, we're still going to have these teams. Even if we have it split up into a million different parties like some of these parliaments in other countries do, what do those parties do when they need to get something done? They form blocks, they form coalitions, which is basically just reducing it back to the binary. We are still going to have these binary teams because that is just the way humans work.
So you think politics should embrace the binaries?
Yeah, but a multi-party system directly indicates that coalitions have to work with one another, and therefore more political perspectives are at least adequately represented. Like, he's not wrong about like coalition building being a necessity. Of course, that's how it works. But like that coalition oftentimes is supposed to get like make demands and get demands. So if you truly are a believer in democracy, like theoretical democracy, like you fucking believe that it's a real thing and has happened or could potentially happen, then yeah, you should definitely absolutely be an advocate for the parliamentary system.
Well, but the whole point of what you were saying about how you should make decisions based on individual policy ideas, like are you pro-choice, are you pro-life?
God damn, dude. Now I understand why fucking all the juicers make fun of us, dude. Is this what my audience looks like at parties? Like, what the fuck's going on? Y'all a bunch of nerds, dude. Holy shit. Never talk about this stuff at parties, okay? Never. Don't do it.
Life. If parties are eliminated, people will actually be forced to do research on the politicians who believe in ideas that are closest to theirs.
The kind of extreme, either lefts or even right people, you know, they kind of just slap a label on it. And I feel like moderates do a lot of their own research because they don't necessarily agree with one side. So every problem that comes up, they have to go and do their own research about it to figure out what side they agree with or what opinion they have on it.
So why did you not agree with the prompt?
I do think that sometimes having, you know, maybe different groups provide conversation. And if we were all the same thing, it's not necessarily, we're not going to have any progress.
Neither Trump nor Biden were good presidents.
My family benefited from a lot of
the fucking free thinkers on the right, by the way. Remember, the individual big brain free thinkers on the fucking conservative right. Okay? Like, you look at liberals, they all are like in unison. They're like, nah, neither of them are good. Okay, neither of them are good. The moderates are like, they're not fucking centrist enough, so there's something fundamentally brain broken about them for that reason. Okay, but then the right wingers are like, nah, brother, that right there is a perfect demonstration of why Republicans still win elections despite having less support overall within the population. Okay, that's it. You're seeing it. It's a microcosm of that exact same thing that happens at a much larger scale every fucking election cycle. Republicans are running objectively worse, more violent, more brutal fucking candidates year over year. Their rhetoric gets more and more violent, more and more psychotic, more and more anti-poor and anti-marginalized year over year. And their fucking fan base is still like, nah, dog. I bleed red. Better red than dead. But better Republican. Red, not fucking communist, obviously.
Trump's policies, but basically what I felt was that...
Is this how a libtard chat looks like? Bro, if you want to know what a libtard chat looks like, watch me chat your fucking mom last night, okay? That's right, dude. She loved it. She's a libtard too now, baby.
A president needs to be presidential, and
not your best. Shut the fuck up!
I just think that personally he's too old to be president. I do think there needs to be a cutoff limit when someone can be president.
Yeah, young people are heavily unrepresented within our country. The average age of an American is around 37 years old, whereas people in Congress are generally above the age of 50 on average. So when people kind of point at Biden to be very old, Trump's also extremely old too. So if we want to put some type of age limit on that side, I think that they're both way too old to be president, and obviously we need a lot more representation for younger people.
Neither of them seem to have been particularly popular even within their own parties, Trump to a lesser extent.
Well, Trump was extremely popular amongst his party, whereas Biden has actually lost a lot of that popularity throughout time as people have seen him throughout his presidency. I think there were a lot of things on both the Republican and Democratic side in which these particular figures led to like a larger amount of polarization amongst the public.
I don't like Trump because of a lot of the racist things that he has said. And if you're out making jokes about...
Oh, no. He's literally about to chime in like, explain to me how he was racist, okay? And then next, explain to me why 14 minutes have passed and the top of the hour has gone by without a 60-second ad break coming.
Oh, I'm going to build a wall.
Is it not 4 minutes now? No, it's not 4 minutes yet. We haven't switched over yet.
Even if it was serious, that's not something to joke about, and it seems like it's very targeted towards one specific group.
Joe Biden has a much stricter racist history than Donald Trump ever has, and in my opinion,
oh my God, he's not wrong though.
Ever will have. During the 2019 presidential cycle, Joe Biden said, if you even...
Okay, here's the issue that I have with people like Chandler, okay? Where they're like, oh man, Joe Biden is more racist than Donald Trump. Like, first of all, you know, maybe. I mean, Joe Biden definitely did more racist shit in the 90s than Donald Trump did because Joe Biden had more power as a senator than Donald Trump did. But we're talking about Donald Trump, who literally fucking took out an ad against the Central Park Five demanding that they get executed. Okay? So, like, within the limited circle that he had, him and his father also denied black people housing. And were investigated by the federal courts for that reason. Like, within the small earldom that Donald Trump had, within the space he occupied, he definitely was as racist as he possibly could be, right? Both are pretty racist. We can admit that, I think. It's fine. Maybe Joe Biden had a much larger impact on the black population in America as a consequence of being the senator that also, was the architect of the crime bill. But I think given the opportunity, Trump would have been just as, if not even more racist, honestly, than Joe Biden was. It's just that he had not had the opportunity yet. And when he did become the president, we saw how he was operating. It's not like we don't know how Donald Trump would be if he was in a position of power. We saw how fucking awful he was. He literally said, people in Africa live in shit huts. They come from shithole countries and they live in fucking mud huts, dude. What do you want? What more do you want? That's like a Ronald Reagan moment, okay? Which, by the way, ironically, I'm sure Chandler would disagree and say Ronald Reagan's not racist, even though he literally once said African diplomats are monkeys who don't know how to wear shoes. But ultimately, it shouldn't be up to the fucking individual words that these people have said. It shouldn't be microaggressions. It shouldn't be macroaggressions or just straight up racist shit that these people say. They are quite literally enacting white supremacist policies. That should be enough for people to recognize that politicians are racist. But no, you have to also see the seasoning. You're so aesthetics prone as liberals that you need some kind of like immediate shape, color, size, something that you consider to be tangible, not like broader white supremacist policies being enacted and harming populations across the board, but like someone straight up saying like a black person is a monkey, which by the way, these guys are so fucking racist, they have done that. Okay.
Think about voting for anybody other than me, you ain't black. When I learned about the atrocities that the Democrat Party had done, not just to the world and to America, but to my race specifically, it's told me something that I could never, in my opinion, be a Democrat. And
yeah, that's why I joined the party that literally runs on racial agitated propaganda that black people are inherently violent. That's why I did that, because I was so open-minded. Like, what is that argument, man? You're like, Democrats were so racist that I decided to join the true racists.
And it would take a lot to even vote for one. And on top of that, back in the 80s, he was responsible for, as he said, wrote the dang bill, the Clinton crime bill, which was responsible for throwing a lot of people.
Like, this is true. But how the fuck do you look at that and then turn around and just avoid the past 10 years of like Republicans literally, first of all, here, the 80s and 90s. First of all, he's talking about the 90s. He's talking about Bill Clinton, not the 80s. He's talking about the 90s. What led to Bill Clinton and passing the crime control bill or the crime bill that Joe Biden actually fucking authored and was the architect of? The Willie Horton ad. Who put that ad out there? What sparked the most racist backlash towards black people that led to the Democratic Party's incessant need to fucking cave and concede to white supremacists and literally become the champion of white supremacist causes like the criminal justice system, championing the criminal justice system and its white supremacist roots and making that permanent? Who did that? Who was pushing the racial agitated propaganda on the fucking left? I mean, on the left, on the right. It was the Republicans. Shut the fuck up. I said on the left. It's so stupid. These people literally act like the crime bill was like Democrats going, I'm racist and I want to do racist shit, okay? Like, yeah, there are a lot of racist Democrats. Joe Biden is one of them. He definitely did a lot of racist shit. But let's not act like the Republicans were ever literally stating like, hold on now, we should be nice to black people. No, they have been weaponizing the white supremacist criminal justice system while denying that institutional or systemic racism exists in perpetuity since the beginning of fucking time. Shut the fuck up. If you are a black conservative, and I'm sorry for using terminology like this, but if you're a black conservative, then you have to admit that there is something inherently wrong and violent about black people, because that is what Republicans believe. There's either intrinsic factors or extrinsic factors, okay? If you believe that it is external factors such as material conditions, like I do, then you believe in systemic racism. If you don't believe that, you believe in internal reasons. And that's what Republicans believe. Republicans believe in intrinsic factors as to why black people are more susceptible to crime and violence, okay? That's how this works. So if you're a black conservative, you're literally fucking personally stating that you believe that black people are inherently more violent, because that's what conservatives believe. It's crazy. It's literally a self-defeating position to be in.
That look like us in prison. This guy is weird.
I mean, within your statement,
Broad brushstrokes over conservatism don't float. Why not? Are there conservatives who fucking recognize that systemic racism exists? Because I've yet to meet one. Ultimately, they will reduce it back to culture, okay? Because they're pussies. They will turn around and say something along the lines of, well, actually, it's not black people that are like genetically violent, but it's their culture. Okay, why is it that like black culture, rap music, or whatever you want to consider to be black culture, which is literally the most popular culture, not only in America, but just in general, worldwide, why is that not affecting white people in the same way? Because white people White people consume more rap music than black people do. There are more white people in America. They all listen to rap music. Why is it not impacting, if it's culture and if it's music, why is it not impacting white people in the same way? Maybe it has something to do with literally the material conditions that people are subjected to. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. They have no answer for this, by the way, unless you're literally saying there's something up with black people that they choose, that they interpret culture differently than white people do. Or maybe there's an easier explanation, and that is poverty, okay? Socioeconomic circumstances that people are brought up in. Because when you look at black, white, doesn't matter. When you look at fucking poverty, you see violent crimes, okay? That's how this works. It doesn't matter. It's truly colorblind, really, if you think about it. That's the one area where it is legitimately colorblind. The only difference is, of course, false. I love when motherfuckers say false to that. You're just self-reporting. You've seen false information and faulty data. If you say that it is not nearly identical across fucking across the boundaries of socioeconomic factors, you're basically saying you went on 4chan and someone duped you into believing that like rich black people do more crime than rich white people or some shit. Or poor white people even. I've heard that as well. That's just a gigantic self-report that you're not only wrong, but you're too stupid and so biased that you would believe in fucking, faulty data.
You didn't necessarily acknowledge any of the racist history in relation to Trump as well. So if we're only going to put eyes on like either Trump or Biden, I see that not necessarily to be like the most consistent framework for looking at this.
Of course, and I understand why you say that, but she didn't actually provide any examples of a history. She provided a media mismanagement of what he said in 2015/16, talking about immigration. But every time Trump tries to talk about this, they call him a racist and a xenophobe.
I come from a family that is of immigrants. My grandparents don't speak English, and they are from Mexico. And a lot of the time, people were bashing Trump for that being a racist thing. He's trying to keep them out, but he's only trying to keep the criminal individuals such as.
Yo, she said Mexico is sending rapists, girl. What the fuck are you talking about? What is this? I'm a moderate on Trump's immigration policies as a Mexican American. First generation, I'm a moderate on Trump's, immigration policies. What that means is I think only half the children should be separated from their parents, okay? Just half. Do a 50-50 split. Slice the children in fucking half and give two sides of the child to one parent. That's how you're supposed to do it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm for. That's what I'm in favor of. I'm a moderate. That's awesome.
Drug lords or people sending drugs to our country.
At the same time, though, it's sort of like disingenuous to say that, the immigration policies are just keeping the bad people out, because at the same time, it's almost impossible for most people to emigrate to the United States legally.
Billionaires can solve problems better than the government.
Yes! Yes! Let's go, dude. Yeah, Elon Musk running the country like fucking Twitter. Donald Trump running the country like Elon Musk runs Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Woo!
Capitalism will always be more superior than the public sector in almost like 90% of things in this country. Billionaires have obviously.
Listen, bro, when DuPont Chemical was fucking straight up dumping unimaginable amounts of toxic chemicals into water supplies, killing all natural water supply in a region, I was saying to myself, let's fucking go. The government can't dump toxic waste like this, okay? Do you understand? The government can't come near this shit, dog. I want Teflon directly ingrained into my fucking existence, okay? Holy shit, could you imagine? Could you imagine, dude? Fuck.
So they have a lot of money. But what I see is that billionaires are using their money for philanthropy. They don't want to pay taxes, I see that, because they just feel like if the government takes their money, they're not going to do good with the money. A great example would be Amazon. I mean, it has revolutionized the way we shop.
I think the key word.
Yeah, dude, it really did. Amazon invented this concept called whipping the living shit out of your fucking workers in your distribution facility. So much so that the turnover rate is so fucking high that it's literally running out of people to abuse, okay? It's so everywhere, and it is the level of turnover is so fucking high that they don't have new employees coming in that they could fucking abuse. Okay? It's so sick, dude. They did this really fucking crazy thing called time off task, where they've basically turned human beings into fucking robots, even though they're not. And you know, they've revolutionized it. Oh, God, Americans are fucking worse, dude.
In the prompt is billionaires can, you know, affect positive change better than the government.
By the way, this is yet another instance where like fucking annoying little moderates, you know, siding with the conservatives on right-wing shit. Because in America, you are a right-winger. Your automatic position in a lot of instances is going to be super, super slanted towards the right. That's just how it is, okay? Damn, Lake McGroove not even allowing people to call me a clown, dude. You're fucking snapping on them.
I don't think it's a like guarantee that they will, because I think there are certain instances of billionaires doing good with their money. But then there are also, you know, I know you mentioned Jeff Bezos, but he also often doesn't use his money for good because there are.
Time off task allows us to see when lazy workers aren't working, spend a day in an Amazon fulfillment center, and then talk about the company. Do you think, hey guys, do you think this chatter knows? Lemma, not true at all. I'm a manager at Amazon. Oh, brother. Yeah. Do you think chatter knows that he is surrounded by motherfuckers that have you know, donated to the Amazon labor union, that has interviewed Chris Smalls? I wonder if he has any idea. Do we know the conditions in a distribution facility? I mean, I would never know that. Please, I would love to hear from the manager about the working conditions that the actual fucking wage laborers go through. Okay? Yeah, let me hear more from the fucking boss man's dog. If you had any decency and self-awareness, you would recognize that you are in a similar predicament to the fucking workers that you're considering lazy, but your entire job and your efficiency in your job revolves around making sure that, you know, people are whipped adequately. Just because you're holding the whip doesn't change the position that you're currently in. I'm just letting you know. Get back to work. Smile. I used to be a tier 3 employee, supervisor level, and these motherfuckers are the biggest goddamn bootlickers. They fire people over 2 extra minute bathroom break once in an entire 10-hour shift. Holy fuck, dude. I mean, that dude is definitely memeing. There's no fucking shot a dude that's been following me since 2019 is like behaving this way.
Many reports of Amazon employees being mistreated, denied breaks, and, you know, issues where it's like, come on, you have all that money. Do you need like so much more from like cutting corners like that?
These billionaires can do fantastic things, but I also understand that government regulations, taxes, and various other things occupy their time. I don't believe billionaires should be heavily taxed. I believe the tax cuts we had in 2018 were some of the best things we saw for our economy.
Dude, what do you mean? That didn't impact you. You're 18 years old. You are not a fucking you're not in the top tax bracket, brother. You're not a corporation, and you're not in the fucking top marginal tax rate. Your parents might be, but you yourself are not. Okay? And financially speaking, you're probably not going to reach that level, and the fucking tax bracket that your parents are statistically more likely to be in has already gotten a tax increase that was built into the same fucking tax cuts. These people are so stupid, dude. Holy fucking shit. It's crazy to me that you could be 16 years old and be like, dude, oh my God, the Trump tax cuts were incredible. They were so beneficial to the economy. Yeah, totally, dude. Totally. It was so fucking good. It was so sick. Oh, they are 16. That's crazy. Okay.
I completely would agree with you that we shouldn't be taxing billionaires at such a high rate. If you tax billionaires, they would respond by increasing the prices of goods and services. I think
that's crazy. Like, can you imagine the disdain you have for your fellow working class members? Okay. Fantasizing about a position that you will maybe one day be in the future, and openly admitting that billionaires have the economy in a fucking stranglehold. Like, homie just said, billionaires have a gun to the head of the American economy. Okay. And that's precisely why we shouldn't tax them, even though the goods that we are creating so that they can accumulate profit off of our labor is also being done on top of the infrastructure that we and our taxes have paid for. That's crazy. This is something I'll never understand. People will literally be like, yo, dude, if we tax the billionaires, they will fucking leave. First of all, statistically speaking, that's not true. That has not happened. And that's precisely why even in a country like Norway, there are a higher number of billionaires per capita than the United States of America. Okay? So that's number one. So the top marginal tax rate doesn't actually get billionaires to fucking leave. If that was the case, you wouldn't have any fucking billionaires or millionaires living in California that has the highest fucking state income tax. And yet, you know, there's an $80 billion budget surplus now in the aftermath of COVID in the state of California because no one fucking moved. They stayed here and they're just paying their fucking taxes in spite of all the goddamn, you know, loopholes that they take advantage of. So number one, the idea that we can't tax billionaires more is such a profoundly silly idea. I cannot comprehend why you would say it. You're not a billionaire. You're a fucking idiot, okay? Like, ultimately, you should literally say the most normal thing, which is billionaires should be paying a percentage of their yearly income, their yearly revenue that they're generating for themselves that is adequate and similar to how much I'm paying, okay? Because right now, this kid's not working, okay? His parents are, but his parents are paying a percentage of their yearly income. The amount of money that they make, they're paying a percentage of that, okay? There's a tax rate. There's an effective tax rate that they're paying. Billionaires' effective tax rate is like 0.1% if you look at someone like Warren Buffett. Your parents are like at the minimum 30%, okay? That's crazy. You're defending that unjustifiable system. Why? Because a lot of their fucking wealth is tied up to their assets. Okay, your parents might have some wealth that's tied to their assets, but if they can't fucking pay the tax bill at the end of the year, okay, they're going to have to liquidate some of that. Billionaires should be able to do that as well. They are not in a separate bracket. They're not these gods, even though we want to treat them like that. Can confirm I'll make 100K and pay 28% before credits, about 15% after. I have the optimal 2 kids.
The reason why everything is so expensive is inflation. But in the past, when inflation was low, there were times where things were very expensive. And that is because of the fact that we have high corporate tax rates in some states.
Well, so
Dude, it's like you literally just said if we increase taxes, they'll hurt us. And then you said high corporate tax rate is the reason why fucking, things are expensive. Okay, did things get cheaper? It's so weird how it doesn't work the other way. Trump actually reduced the fucking corporate tax rate. Did shit get cheaper? No. So why did that happen? That's weird. That's really interesting that you said that because, you know, all these tax cuts and things actually haven't gotten cheaper. As a matter of fact, they got way more expensive. That's so weird. The fuck's that about? Huh. Interesting.
Respectfully disagree with the idea that taxing billionaires, or specifically leaving billionaires untaxed, is beneficial to the American economy because the
let's go
most like prosperous
an actual moderate guy. Oh God, he's definitely like one of those dudes who has a sock in their fucking Twitter account.
Era for the American economy was the 1950s.
He's like one of those like weird fucking. I'm a social democrat, but I'm actually a neoliberal Andes. Oh my God.
50s, the post-war economic miracle. That was when billionaires were being taxed at a rate of 90%. And this isn't socialism or anything. This was under American capitalism, under a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower.
And this was right after a fantastic, I hate to say fantastic war, but it was a fantastic war for
least bloodthirsty conservative, dog. He said it was right after a fantastic war. Just the greatest, dude. War is so good for our economy. Holy fuck. Yikes, dude.
For us, in which we got so much American pride, and that Republican president, Dwight D.
It was the American pride that fucking geared our economy, and not the fact that the country was like basically singularly united as a fucking war economy to generate goods and services, and then in the immediate aftermath was not actually impacted in the same way that fucking Europe was as a consequence of its, you know, geopolitical proximity.
The Eisenhower then utilized that money that he taxed from those billionaires to create a great system, which is the...
Wait, he said it's patriotic to tax billionaires 90%. So why not get back to that level of patriotism? I agree. I think it is patriotic. I think it is fucking fantastic. I think it's patriotic. Do your due diligence to do your patriotic duty to fucking pay 90% top marginal tax rate. Straight up. I agree.
The interstate system, which is a fantastic thing that connects our country. But unfortunately, the government isn't really investing money in things like that anymore. It's investing...
That's not true. I mean, the government would try to do that, but, you know, the guy that tried to do that a little bit, you call a fucking socialist, socialist communist to the left of Lenin. You know what I mean? And he's not even like doing all that. He just wants to spend a little bit of money on infrastructure. And everybody lost their shit.
Money and weird programs and things that the average American isn't going to benefit from.
So billionaires do have a lot of money and a lot of influence in order to do good within our economy, but nowhere near the ability of the government. If we're talking about billions of dollars, the government has access to trillions of dollars.
Don't say it, Parker. Don't even give him that. Fuck the billionaires.
Scale, like yearly speaking. Yeah, in some circumstances, like Mark Cuban, they absolutely can do those things.
No,
anywhere near
no such thing, Parker.
Access of healthcare that they do have in these other countries.
And it doesn't compare to the damage that will happen to the average American when the government decides to pull trillions of dollars out of nowhere, because we have to remind ourselves the government makes nothing. The government takes from every single citizen standing in this room that pays taxes each and every day, including state governments and federal governments. They start throwing trillions at random things like, I don't know, healthcare for everybody, which can work for a country that's the size of maybe South Carolina, but will not work for the size of our country.
Yeah, I would say that's because our government actually like mismanages the money comparative to other nations. We spend a lot in terms of our per capita on healthcare, like more than other countries, yet they actually have better health outcomes and they cover more people. So I do think there are lots of things that the United States could do better comparative to other countries. And we can learn a lot more from those other countries. And yet we don't do that because of this idea of American exceptionalism.
When you were talking about like how it's much easier to like manage like a country.
None of them pay taxes. Yeah, it is kind of funny to have a bunch of dudes who've never paid taxes talk about it. But, you know, whatever.
Country that's smaller, that's completely true. Like whatever the national government does doesn't.
What? No, that's not. Like economy scale. What is it? This is like super basic stuff. Am I misunderstanding what she's saying? What the fuck? Like literally look at China, man. Like China is right there. It is an example that you can use to literally undermine every single argument that like dumb Americans try to fucking throw at you and be like, oh, well, you know, the size of a nation matters. That's why Norway, they're able to do it. Or they're homogenous, which is bullshit. That's like a complete fucking nonsensical position. Because like half of those fucking countries are not homogenous in the way that they claim America is you know, too diverse or whatever, including China, including but not limited to China. Of course, the people that make that homogeny argument are also racist, so they think China, and they don't think diversity. They think they're all Asian. What do you mean? There's different kinds of Asian? I thought they were all Chinese. You have to stop the 16-year-olds don't pay taxes. At the minimum, they pay sales tax and may have part-time jobs where they pay normal taxes. This is the biggest justification to allowing them to vote. I mean, dude, I don't give a fuck. I'm down to allow them to vote. That way, like, maybe people will participate more by the time they're 18. I think it is better for 16-year-olds to vote, despite how fucking stupid they are, than 85-year-olds to vote, because the 85-year-old 100% does not have a good brain, okay? And it's also more beneficial for leftist politics in general. So I am actually, unironically, an advocate for lowering the age of voting and also limiting the age of voting at the same time. Hassan, you look so hot right now in that color green. I would let you hold me at gunpoint. Bible thump 100. Okay. That person should not be allowed to vote.
Really affect me, and that's why, like, for me, I'm a very strong participant in my own local government, because you can like actively go there and talk about like what you want things to budget, and it allows you to actually see tangible effects.
The Supreme Court is out of touch.
Yo, this person.
The Supreme Court is full of older people, which is why I just feel like if we were to bring some newer, fresher justices in.
I thought she was standing. I didn't realize she was actually sitting down for this. She actually has a good take on this, at least. Also, why do only 2 people fucking sit down? Oh my God, and they're moderates too. Who are you rooting to win the World Cup? Wait, what it? Saudi Arabia or Argentina? Sunzia, yeah, Sunzia. Korata. Croatia. Or Uruguay.
In there, they would understand what we're seeing more. Because as an older person, yeah, you can do your research, but you won't experience things the way that we're experiencing them at this moment.
Yeah, I agree. And also, the original intention of the Supreme Court was to be a nonpartisan, strictly legal governing body. Anything.
Oh, they're saying the Supreme Court is out of touch because it's too political. Jack, come on, bro. Jack, when was the Supreme Court nonpartisan, dog? What the fuck kind of take is that? Holy shit, these people have gotten duped.
Thing is contingent now on how many people on the Supreme Court have R's next to their names and how many people have D's next to their names.
I don't think the Supreme Court makes decisions based off what society wants. They make decisions based off what the law says. The Supreme Court is a non-political branch.
Oh my God, he said the Supreme Court is actually doing its fucking job, which is what the law says. Remember all the fucking strict textualists, by the way? You know, the fucking originalist interpretations. None of those arguments were ever present when talking about affirmative action. Did you guys notice that? If you listen to some of the SCOTUS conversations that took place over the affirmative action case, weirdly enough, every single Supreme Court justice that is an originalist who is supposed to look at the law and try to think about like how people would normally interpret it, every single one of them, for some weird reason, was simply talking about like, well, what about this? What about that? They were talking about more so the intent of what not abolishing or not destroying affirmative action would do to college campuses, which is kind of lived up. So what was that about? Oh, wait, it's because they don't give a fuck. It's literally just politics. And if you're not understanding that, you're a fucking sucker, okay?
So disagree with that. The executive branches and legislative branches weren't really necessarily created to be political either. They were created to create laws so that we could live moral and just lives. The Supreme
Oh my God, dude, a black kid saying this is just like, it's hitting so differently. Those dudes built those fucking branches while they had the concept of white, male, land-owning slave owners in mind, okay? Every single aspect of that societal design revolved around, unironically, making sure that women and black people, and even like whoever they considered to be non-white, was not able to participate in this democratic process. That's crazy. That's a crazy take to have. Like whenever, goddamn, whenever I see someone wearing a 1776 shirt, like, you know, like whenever I see a black conservative doing that, I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, that's crazy. Like if those dudes went in a time machine and saw you walking around, they would literally have an aneurysm immediately, okay? They would have an automatic aneurysm.
Supreme Court and the judicial branch as a whole is something that was created to be nonpartisan, but unfortunately that's not realistic in 2022 anymore. And that's why I don't say they're out of touch, because we're all out of touch. And if everybody's out of touch, then we're all in touch, right?
Well, not necessarily. It would just mean all of us are out of touch.
If you look at the foundation of this country,
What?
there were political parties within the executive branch and
He
the
tried
legislative
it.
branch. There were no political parties in the Supreme Court, never.
Yeah, so like in terms of the founding fathers, they were heavily against political parties. I think the process outside of the Supreme Court of how we determine Supreme Court judges is like the messed up process, not necessarily the Supreme Court in of itself.
I just think that we should never politicize the Supreme Court.
Really the best thing we can do in this situation is try to make general public a lot more a part of the process in determining whether or not these justices should be in that place based upon not only their merit, but also like the things they're advocating for. But rather than it being based upon like specifically the political parties, we need a multi-party democracy so that multiple different sides are looked at different times and say, I want to pick a libertarian, or I want to pick a social democrat, or a socialist, or a liberal, right? There are lots of different options that we should have in order to have more of a competitive political marketplace.
But wouldn't it make
crazy.
it
He
more
said
political
socialist.
for the people to choose their judges?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure we do vote in the people that pick the Supreme Court justice.
You vote for the president?
We vote for the president, but
And
those
the
are for
vote
other
for the
topics
senator
in
that
particular,
also
not
confirms
necessarily like jurisprudential or like law in particular.
I'm hopeful about my future in this country.
Here in the United States, we have the ability and the opportunity to be the best nation in the world and live up to all the ideals that we grew up with and thought that we had. Look at all of us. We're willing to have a conversation, whereas years ago, we might not have sat down. We might have hated each other for having different types of beliefs. So I really think that shows the type of growth potential that the United States has in particular.
I personally think I have a great future in this country, especially being a woman, because I can sit here and wear what I want, say what I want, and have just as many rights and equal facilities as you do as an.
Yo, you're a conservative though. So like, or is she a moderate? Is she a conservative? I thought she was a conservative, right? At first I thought she was a moderate, but she's a conservative, right? So like, the fuck are you talking about, dude? You're literally a conservative in an era where like your grandmother and your mother had more basic liberties in terms of bodily autonomy than you do, depending on what zip code and what fucking state you live in. Okay? Like, does she not know that? Does she not? Is she completely oblivious to this reality? Was this shot before the fucking Roe v. Wade decision? Like, what's happening? It is like a historic misstep that just happened, and she's just like, nah, it's fine.
Other countries, that's not awarded to all women or even all people. And I feel that our country gives us some of the most privilege in the world.
So for me right now, I live a great life. I have a house, I have a cat, I have 2 dogs, and it's great. But I feel like things could always be better, you know? And I think that's what I like about this country, is that we have a government where we can actively participate in, and we can make the changes that we want to see.
I think that I am very scared for my future. I grew up 2 hours away from a Ku Klux Klan headquarters, if that tells you anything about where I grew up. There's probably less than the amount of fingers I have on my hands of people of color in my school. There was a lot of racial heat that I got growing up, and it forced me to grow up a lot faster than I thought that I'd have to. If you look up Harrison, Arkansas, it's known as one of the most racist cities in America, and you can see, if you're on TikTok and you see, we visited the most racist city in America, that's gonna be Harrison, Arkansas. My mother is white, but whenever my mom would drive through Harrison when we were going somewhere, she would put a blanket over my crib while we were in that city just because she felt unsafe for me. And whenever I hosted the Black Lives Matter protest, a lot of members from that Ku Klux Klan organization in Harrison were making groups saying that they were gonna come up and harass us and harm us. And it's a very scary thing because you read about the Ku Klux Klan in history books. It's a very different thing to hear them personally tweeting out to you that they are gonna come and that they're gonna harm you. As much as our country is growing, I'm also not going to invalidate the fact that there is a lot of issues that are still stemmed very deep in a lot of people's brains that are still being acted out upon and causing me to feel uncomfortable to live in my country.
As a Black woman, I just feel like being anywhere in the world, it's not just America. There will always be somebody who does not like a person of color, and there will always be someone who wants to assault a woman. We are making progress, but in the same way, we can always go backwards. In Detroit, I just was not happy. Being around white kids at school, I think they are taught to believe that Black people are maybe lower than them. And even if it's not taught, it's something ingrained just in society.
As someone who is not, quite as dark as you, but lives kind of a similar lifestyle, I'm trying to say is that I understand, I really do. It's still a thing that can be stronger than ever, especially with the benefit of social media. I think it's something that we need to grow past if we're going to make the world better for our children. But I think we're also right here, which is a very diverse group in and of itself, but I think we're going to be one of the least racist generations ever, which kind of goes without saying. And I think this will be the century that is just completely eradicated, at least systemically.
Well, I hope you're right. And it obviously is a privilege to live in the United States.
Listen, I'm too Caucasian. I'm not going to talk about colorism. I'm not going to talk about any of that. Okay? I'm just going to stay. I'm going to see myself out of this conversation.
I think we're going down a very...
Said what he said. There's something weird about fucking Zoomers that want to be right-wing, okay? There's just something deeply broken in their brains. Right-wing Zoomers across all boundaries are just so fucking strange, okay?
Very dangerous path. Freedom of speech is under attack in this country. Freedom of thought is under attack. The standard of living has decreased dramatically. People aren't doing better today.
I'm sitting my white ass down and I'm listening.
What do you mean we're doing worse off now? Like, what are you looking at in terms of how did you determine whether or not we're doing worse off?
Well, there's so many things to look at. One of it is how divided we are politically. But at the end of the day, we are the future. And I hope that we don't follow what they're doing. I hope that when our generation goes into Congress, I hope that we're not so politically divided as they are now.
One thing that gives me a lot of hope is just like all of us right now here.
I just want to pull this dude aside and ask him a question. When you say, I hope that our generation's politics are not as divided, I want to know what you mean by that. Like, for example, are you open-minded to the idea that someone is going to, put together a vanguard party and potentially fucking create the dictatorship of the proletariat to inevitably erode all facets of socialist government and finally reach like, a communist utopian existence? Like, are you down with that? Is that an idea that you'd be on board with? Do you even want, when you say we want to cast aside our differences, do you also mean like, just fucking healthcare, Let's nationalize, let's completely eradicate privatization on commodities and services and goods that are an absolute necessity for survival. The government should provide the bare minimum. That means shelter, that means healthcare, that means a certain level of food, okay? Adequate food. Do you believe that is fine? That's appropriate. You know what I mean? That's chill. Or do you have differences in the way that you want to deal with that? Because I talk about fucking casting our differences all day, every day, but I fully understand that at the top of the hour, there's going to be some people that see an ad and some people that don't see an ad.
Talking, we're all from different backgrounds. We've all had different stories in our past, but we're all here and we're all having a conversation and we're all listening to each other. We're all getting our ideas out. And in the end of the day, I think this is giving me hope for the future because this is what's going to change.
Is my audio weird today? I don't know. Hassan is kind of problematic. He talked about drowning his fans on stream. Bro, are you okay?
I came from a very conservative and Republican city and state in Arkansas, and I grew up around a lot of people who did not have the same.
Woo! 9. I was robbed of a 9 there.
My circle who did have different beliefs were blasting me on private stories and stuff like that and making me feel like I was dumb.
It's really hard for me to make friends that are from the liberal side, as immediately they hear or even see my political views or even my religion.
Dude, the funniest part about this, and I hope that like at least the liberals don't change their empathetic worldview if they're guided by empathy. But like most of those people's political perspectives are subject to change. You know what I mean? Like you are going to have dramatic shifts in your life, things that happen to you, things that you experience, things that you see happen to others that are going to shape your worldview and change who you are. A lot of the people that are in the chat right now, that are making fun of these people, you were probably like them when you were 16. A lot of you were like right wing. Some of you were definitely Even in the far right, I would say, because you went down that same fucking I did my own research pipeline and came out of it listening to cringe lords like Sargon of Akkad and shit. It's normal. It happens. What matters is where you get to. I was then before I switched from Juicer to you. If I had to be a part of this at 16, I would most likely make a fool of myself defending people who don't deserve the parroting shit I don't mean. Yeah. It's okay. It happens. You know, a lot of people go through that phase. Ultimately, what matters is like where you get to. Okay. Milburgo, thank you for the 5, get the subs.
Religion, they immediately try to shut me down. They send me death threats. They put stuff in my bag saying they're going to kill me. They've poured paint in my bag and shaken it up. When COVID happened and things were starting to shut down and the incident with George Floyd happened, everybody started looking through everyone's profiles, their family's profiles, especially when these protests were going on. And there was a picture of my dad and my family, all of us together, and he was wearing a Trump shirt. I was getting a lot of death threats, a lot of encouraging me to commit suicide, threatening to do unspeakable things to me and my family, threatening to find my address and hurt them. I could, in fact, say almost all of them were liberals. It makes it really, really hard because the minute that you're different from them, at least in my experience, they shut you down immediately. So I just kind of close myself off and I stay friends with the people that are going to respect me and respect my views.
When I came out publicly as a conservative in 2018, it was probably one of the hardest years I've ever went through. At my school, having my opinions while looking like
He said George Floyd being brutally and mercilessly massacred by the fucking police in broad daylight was really shitty for me. Why? Because I'm a black conservative. That's awesome.
I did was a non-starter. I received so many obviously negative messages. They called me some terrible things, which I don't even think I can say on here. But all the phrases that you've heard, get thrown at black conservatives simply for having their ideas and make it look like I'm some sort of slave simply for having my opinions, making it seem like I can't think for myself.
Bro, he's like 16. What the fuck is he talking about? Like, I just don't understand. If he's 16 right now in 2022, talking about 2018, like what the fuck, 2019, what was he, 12? Is he talking about he came out as a social conservative when he was 12? He's like, bro, at kindergarten, dude, we were doing finger painting and I decided to tell everybody like I'm a conservative actually. Like what is happening? Where was this political coming to Jesus moment occurring? Like, it's crazy.
Because I am black, not understanding that they're perpetuating the exact same racism that they think they're fighting against by calling me those words.
I'm from Thousand Oaks, California.
By the way, that's pretty funny because, like, if you understand that systemic racism is real and you understand that people can be racist to you because you're black, and then you say, well, people were being racist to me because they were calling me, terms that I will not be saying here, okay? Then you got to understand the other side, right? Like, you have to understand the Republican racism at that point, right? Because, like, here's the thing. If you look to someone that is like a white person calling you that word, okay, and that is racist for sure, and you say, this is peak racism, that like white liberals are calling me that, okay, but there's a layer of racism that's above that, right? I mean, there is. Because there's another word. We're not talking about the uncle word, but there's another word, the N word, okay? And there are people whose politics resemble saying that word over and over again. Those people are oftentimes conservative, okay? They are. I'm not going to sit here and act like, liberals can't be racist. Of course they are. Of course. Quite frequently, as a matter of fact. Okay? But let's be real. There's certainly some people who are not even trying to clean up their language to make it seem like they want to, act like they're not openly agitational towards black people.
And I've met people who are like pretty hardcore conservatives. I feel like all of us, when my friends, when we come and have these discussions, we all just want what's best for this country. And of course, we all have our own ideas of how to achieve that. But in the end, we want a world that's everyone can benefit from. And of course, unless you are able to discuss with other people your different opinions with things and talk about the reasons why you believe certain ways, you can't make any progress with our country.
I strongly agree. And so personally, I'm from New Jersey. You can probably figure out
Big
I have
L.
a predominantly left-leaning friend group.
L. He's from New Jersey, dude. L.
I never really took issue with that because I feel like at the end of the day, you shouldn't be exclusively talking about politics with the people you're friends with. Especially, it's concerning to me that, based on recent studies, a growing plurality of Americans simply refuse to be friends with people who are of different political affiliations from them. That, if anything, says very concerning things about our country, especially because, that this level of political polarization that we're seeing now hasn't been matched in American history since the antebellum era of the Civil War.
Can't talk shit. I'm from Connecticut. True. A even bigger L.